Okay, here we are, DirtWorld-TV. We are up here, well, Bell HQ UK, let's call it that. I'm here with Toby Light now. We are going to talk about this bad boy, the Bell Moto 10. Now, if like me, you're a big Bell fan, and I am, and as you can see, this is a genuine work of art. I'm looking at it, I'm seeing where the vents are, or whatever, so let's get into finer detail about the design concept, everything that the Moto 10 does. This is obviously the carbon version. You'll see these helmets on the heads of some pretty serious talent. Eli Tomac, Cooper Webb,
Jeff Parrott.
Jeff Parrott. So Toby, let's talk about this in more detail. It is a fine looking piece of kit. I can see here that already it's kind of not one shell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Explain that to me, because it looks like that bit sits on top. So explain more.
The Moto 10 is only available in a carbon fibre option, so it's a 3K 2x2 carbon fibre outer shell. And absolutely, as you said then, it's sort of standalone, different to anything else you would see on the market, just from looking for the aesthetics from the externally. So we've got a two-piece segmented shell. So it's based on a 3-shell 3PS, but the outer shell is made of 2 different materials. So as homologation is changing, it's getting a lot harder to put venting into helmet. So Bell went back to the drawing board, completely redesigned the shape and the shell of the helmet and the construction of it. So we've got 2 different pieces. So you've got the bottom piece of carbon fibre here, which underlaps the top piece, and then you've got an additional piece on top of the helmet. Right. So imagine you've got the bottom wrapper end of carbon, and then another piece overlaying that. So what that does is protects you from any penetration impact. So if anything sharp or aggressive would try and get through the helmet, which could come through a venting and make contact with your skull, it prevents that, but then additionally gives you a full vent all the way through the helmet.
So am I clear in thinking then, what you're saying there, that under here, this bottom shell doesn't actually sort of join? There's loads of, there's a gap there.
There's 4 points of contact where it's forced together. Obviously it's tested to the height so it's not going to come off under impact. But yeah,
but essentially that's one big vent on top of your head.
Full vent all the way around the helmet, which no other helmet manufacturer has managed to put into a helmet. So a massive increase in ventilation, but most importantly stops any spark testing or any penetration coming through the helmet through a vent, or which you could.
Yeah, because that was interesting what you said about homologation, and now so obviously the rules are set. Obviously safety needs to be taken consideration. So basically, driven by the homologation, this is.
Yeah, brands like Bell there's standards to meet, but premium helmet brands, try to exceed that. So instead of just closing off the vent into the helmet and passing the test, they added a vent all the way through the helmet so that they could still offer that comfort whilst out in competition.
And of course, in motocross in particular, certainly in the UK, there tends to be, in the winter anyway, wet sand and stuff flying around. So in many ways, kind of doing it like that as well sort of stops exhaust ports being clogged up. And
there's no point, nothing that's going to get vented. Obviously if you take a big sample to the dirt, you could put it in there, but everything's cleanable and optional. Additionally, there is a lot of venting into the helmet as well coming in, but with that in mind, it's not so often, even in the minus temperatures that we get here in the UK, that people are coming off the back without any sweat on their heads. So venting, true. High intensity and low speed of motocross tends to lead to some high temperatures within the helmet.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry, I interrupted them, but I wanted to, because I wanted to find out what was going on under that. I mean, obviously we're not going to dismantle it to that point. So so that's just one key feature to me. Looking at it, I mean, like I said, it is a genuine, just wonderful work of art, really. So tell us more.
Yeah, we've also got some safety features within the peak and more venting within the peak, but we'll come back to those when we finish off the helmet. We'll get to the most important parts first. So when we look at the internals of the helmet, the cheek pads, the top pad liner, the comfort liner and the chin strap, everything made by an American company called Virus. So what that offers is magnetic cheek pads. So if you're having a head or neck injury, the medics can pull those out through the bottom to prevent any further injury. And then if you put that backside down on the back of your hand, it should feel
put the helmet down for a minute.
Around 10 degrees cooler than your natural body temperature. So with that, it's got cool jade forged into the liner. So it contracts heat energy, it's moisture wicking and antibacterial.
I know this, you could probably think, yeah, that's easy for you to say because you're just filming it and we haven't got a temperature gauge on it, but genuinely, that...
Yeah, you never...
Obviously,
putting it on the back of your hand is a sensitive part of the body, so
that doesn't feel like room temperature to me.
Yeah, it should be cooler than your
Yeah.
natural body temperature. And again, it just goes to, with the venting, with the comfort liner of the helmet, just try and keep you hydrated for as long as possible and as comfortable as possible whilst competing.
You know, and even looking at this pad here, I can see that there's so many cross-woven and different textures on it. It's not all done by one piece. I don't know if you can see that, but there's sort of bigger vented holes there with a fine mesh over the top. Then it gets a bit finer in and around here. So there's like about 3 different cross sections of material on that one pad.
Density, yeah, different densities as well.
Yeah.
So that it's a softer when first on your head, but then obviously more dense within that. And actually, in some of the previous models, there's slightly longer cheek pads. So that's just to help the cheek grip the helmet, so that in an extreme mud race, when you have either an extended peak on or a lot of weight on the helmet, stops the helmet dropping down and moving your eye port for in, you know, to help your vision.
Of course, safety, as you've mentioned there, being able to pull them out. You know, head injuries more than ever in so many sports now. You know, we are conscious now of brain injuries through other sports like football, rugby, etc.
Yeah.
To be able for the medics to attend to a head injury without disturbing the neck or anything like that's pretty key, eh?
Yeah, and without being an absolute Bell through and through nerd, touching on that, you know, Bell
Well, that's what you're here for.
Bell don't just make helmets for motocross or motorcycling. You know, it originated in 1954. They made helmets for NFL, the American Army, you know, road biking, any different style of helmet or any different type of sport where you could take a head injury. So when we move to the safety features within the helmet, you'll see that some of the technologies may not actually have come from the motorcycle industry, but are absolutely relevant in, you know, brain trauma and what they can prevent within the helmet. Yeah.
So that's the padding. You know, so that, like I said, made by an American virus, did you say?
Virus, yeah. So people might be aware of it as the sportswear company. So it's almost, you know, as we have that Under Armour over here, it's like an equivalent in America when they've designed it.
So a bit of a collaboration going on. That's
absolutely
good. Yeah.
And then when we move beyond that, you've got the spherical technology. So a lot of people know Flex with Bell, that is still available. So we've still got the Moto 9S Flex range available, which has been super popular in the UK. But then beyond that, we've got spherical technology. So something that, you know, although Bell had great technology, they've again moved it forward to develop spherical and put it in the Moto 10. So we've got 2 different densities of material. The first one will be slightly harder to see, but you can see here behind the red piece of covering. So that's your EPS for your higher speed impacts.
Right.
And then closest to your head, we've got EPP. So that is for softer and lower speed impacts. So 2 different densities for energy management. If you have a high speed impact, the 2 materials will compress to manage that energy. And then if you have a lower speed impact, something that could still cause trauma to the brain, then just the softer materials will compress. And then,
so a high-end helmet, that's not the norm. Obviously, normally mid-range, lower, is that just one internal
just
shell
one,
normally?
yeah, you just have like a single density or dual density EPS,
Gotcha.
which is more than enough to pass helmet safety and standards. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but Bell have just put something in there to cover lower speed impacts as well, just to try and, you know, prevent any further injuries through the brain. And then additionally to that, we've also got the MIPS liner. So Spherical is powered by MIPS. MIPS is a separate company that Bell have worked very closely with. So in between the 2 materials, we've got the MIPS liner. So what that allows is for a slip flame. So you can hopefully see that. So we've got,
when you get the pads out, you can really see that, can't you?
yeah, so we've got, that allows for 10 to 15 millimeters of movement, either linear or rotationally. So the reason that that's been added to the helmet, you know, periodically it's been, helmets have been testing a very linear motion, either directly into the ground or directly into the wall. It's very unrealistic that you would ever crash in that motion. You would always tend to, you know, connect with the ground and roll off. And what happens in that motion is, I'll put the helmet down to help. You kind of, if you imagine, as we connect with the ground, helmet, skull and brain are all going in that direction.
Yeah, but then you've got the weight of your body then adding more forces,
the
right?
inertia is going in one direction and then everything gets snatched back.
Yeah.
So helmet and skull come back to stay in connection with your neck and body, but your brain's still driving in that motion. So what happens, without getting too scientific, is basically we've got tissues, we've got a fluid between our skull and our brain that allows us 10 to 15 millimeters of movement.
Right.
So when you exceed that 10 to 15 millimeters, that's when the tissues start to tear, which leads to bleeding, bruising and further injury. Can't stop that motion from happening in a motorcycle accident, but with the internals of the helmet moving again 10 to 15 millimeters, it just reduces that risk, or reduces that torsion, or maximizes our movement. So if instead of having 10 to 15 millimeters, you're closer to 20 to 30 millimeters to reduce.
Well, that is effectively replicating what is going on in your skull with the fluid in your brain, isn't it?
That's the absolute.
I mean, literally, that does the same as what your body does with your brain inside your skull.
Yeah, it basically mimics our
Within
natural
reason.
reflex. Yeah, so what we are designed to do to protect ourselves, a helmet has advanced that to just prevent that again.
Yeah, that's
So-
actually seeing that move though, like that, you know, now you're taking the pads out.
Yeah.
I mean, so there you go. I mean, straight away, if you're conscious of safety for your brain and your head, which you should be, you know, let's be honest, it's critical, the most important part of any riding gear. That is pretty darn cool.
And you can see as well the big
around.
cutouts through it. So working with the venting through the helmet and the venting through the shell.
Let's just
Big
have another
cutouts
look at
going
that.
through.
Yeah, so the vents still, you can really, I don't know if you can see that on the camera now, but you can see the vents coming in and how they go right through, if you can see that. But also, obviously, as we said, underneath this top bit here is this massive ventilation anyway. So all that is going straight onto the top of your head, I can see, and driving all the way to the back.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That's impressive. Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, you know, as I said, safety is so key. On a high-end helmet, look, I'm going to say it right now, you know, if you're going to spend your money on anything, spend it on a decent lid, basically. That's the crux of it, isn't it? You know, like, you're going to need good boot stuff as well, but there's a lot of other superficial stuff. But, you know, it's a dangerous sport, and that has taken it to a whole new level, isn't it? I think we've got, what's this going on here as well? Because I can see, obviously, this is something new to it. Normally we have like just a
harder material.
Yeah, and a regular ridge across there, but it seems like the shell is being brought up here, cut away. So these are a bit softer. So I guess that's for collarbone and stuff like that.
It is, yeah. I'm just going to touch on one thing before we go there.
Okay,
sorry. Yeah. Well, thanks for mentioning it. Is as we've been showing it, people have possibly seen the eject in there. So that's something that Bell have adapted their helmets to take. So in AMA, it's compulsory that you run a bladder pack in the helmet. You often
Right.
see coming out the back of Tormax or whether any riders in the AMA, they have
like a
almost looks like a camel pack
Yeah.
connector coming at the bottom of the helmet. So they have to run that on top of the helmet. If they have any injury, the medics can pump it up and just remove the helmet.
So that helps lift the helmet without them
so it's
moving the head.
Not compulsory in the UK, but Bell have actually put a little cutout in the helmet so you can remove that and run the bladder pack in there. So that if needs be, if you do want to be able to pump the helmet off the helmet, it's in there and added as well. So not something that's massively known as for the UK riders or they're aware of, but again, just something that helmet
But it's an
accommodates.
option.
Yeah, absolutely. So they can leave it with the parents or whoever can get to them and help remove the helmet if needed under injury.
Just out of interest, with that, is that something that's going to be available in the UK?
It is available. You can buy it. The only problem with it, because it's not compulsory, the first people that would tend to be with you would be the medics, and they wouldn't have the kit to pump it off.
Right. Okay.
Great feature for America, not so much for in the UK.
So something
but
we
as-
might see in a few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've been asked to it coming. But then, absolutely going back to the what Bell call the NMR bumpers. Sorry. So you'll see
What bumpers? What are they called?
NMR bumpers.
And
It's
tell me
called
what that
the
means.
no miss race bumpers. So we'll get to the points of it. I didn't come up with the name.
No. Okay. Right.
So as you see, the softer material in the chin bar is for if you under extreme impact, if you come in connected with the helmet, just to try and prevent you from beating your face up too badly. But then that material follows on and comes to the side of the helmet. So the reason they've put that there, and I wasn't actually aware of this, is that a lot of broken collarbones are caused by the helmet. So as you take a connection with the ground and the body moves, the side of the helmet digs into the collarbone and
Right.
actually breaks the collarbone. So Bell have put the softer material, what runs in from the back of the chin bar to the side of the helmet, so that's nice and soft, compresses and rebounds as well, so it's not like something that will compress and be used once. So that will hopefully manage the impact from the collarbone and just stop you missing a broken collarbone, which isn't massive brain trauma, but again is something that could make you miss a couple of races and possibly lose a season.
Yeah, NMR, not miss
Yeah.
racing. Yeah, so it's got so many good points to it. About the peak, obviously the peak looks, you know, again, just two fastening points. We're kind of getting away from this middle fastening point. I guess that's now because, again, that's designed to, if you do a real dirt digger.
Yeah, so we've seen lots of different
it breaks
variations
off.
from various brands and so on. So the way Bella went about the peak design is they removed the centre screw, which one feature is, again, I know we've touched on it a lot, is venting. So without having anything in there, you can have a bigger opening to get more airflow through. So less drag on the peak and also just keep you more comfortable whilst in use.
Yeah.
But then without that, it allows for the peak to come all the way back or all the way forward under impact. So what we've got here, when I remove the peak screw, we've got, you can hopefully see the little
You've
plastic
got two
rivet.
buffer. Yeah. So okay.
So that when that's in place and your peak screws in, stops it coming too far down, that's as far down, or too far back, that's as far back as it'll go. But with any energy, that will snap, so that come all the way back or all the way forward. Again, just reduces any energy transfer through to the neck or the body, and again just try and prevent further injuries than what you would be seen as just a brain injury.
So those two little pegs are quite handy because they said without them you could do, but if the screws come off, that stops it. Not come off, but if they came a little bit loose, which I'm sure they wouldn't, it stops it lifting right up or going right down.
It won't come down into your vision, or won't go too far back in the wind.
Yeah.
But if you do crash and they snap, you can just pull it back in, and it will be somewhere that you can finish the race and still use the peak to protect you from the elements.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I mean, I think it's fair to say, we kind of, a couple of years ago, I think it was a couple of years ago, we kind of all knew that a Moto 10 was coming. And there was like it was almost, I wouldn't say delay, but there were spy shots, and it's like, oh, when's it coming? Well, it's obviously here and been there for a little while now. I can honestly say, once you get it in your hands and you look at the work involved in it, and certainly the safety features and the attention to detail, I think it's fair to say the Moto 10 has well been worth the wait. It certainly is an awesome looking bit of kit. What we're talking about regards of retail price in the UK and availability and colourways and all that, how are we looking with that?
The price for the Moto 10 starts at $649.99, going to $699.99 depending on the graphic. So the solid one which you see there in the nice carbon detail, there's a couple of options available, gloss or matte, be $649, and then on the graphic, so anything where like an artist series or a replica, like a web replica or a tarmac replica, the additional price on that is $699.
And I'm guessing we're going to be looking at a good load of stock coming in soon, so in all the shops and all the retailers.
It's been nice to be part of it. We've had like a limited edition launch all the way through 2022. There will be new designs coming for 2023 and they're on. So every year we manage to get a couple of limiteds and some rider replicas, which is always nice to see.
Well, see, now this is the hard bit. We've done the easy bit. The easy bit for me, he's had to talk about it. I'm wearing a Bell cap, so now I'm going to try and sweet talk Toby into actually getting my hands on one of these suckers. But I'm going to do that.
Just contact the local retailer network, and it'll be $649.99.
He's doing the hard sell, isn't he? I'd say I'm going to have to take him out for lunch or something. So there you go. That is the Bell Moto 10 in all its glory and all its detail. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be doing a load more product reviews as we go on throughout the year. So thanks for that. Don't be a mug. Go and get yourself a decent lid for your noggin. I highly recommend one of these. Thanks, Toby.